Hello viewers, you find me here at the British Library in London. Deanna and I are on a flying visit to the UK and we have taken this opportunity to meet up with a good friend of the John Cedars channel. You will all be familiar with him from Watchtower in Focus. Unfortunately, I can't show you him, but trust me, I'm not talking to myself. He is here with me. Hello, Covert Fade.
Hello everybody, how are you?
So, regular viewers will understand that Covert Fade is fading, or faded.
Faded.
Faded, yeah, and you know, for reasons of shunning, basically. It's just not practical to get you on camera. But I thought it would be really interesting while I'm here in the UK to meet up and just get your thoughts on where we are at the beginning of 2019, looking back on 2018. A lot of stuff happened Watchtower related. We really had our work cut out following it with JW Survey and on Watchtower in Focus, didn't we?
Yeah, it's interesting because when I first started, even when I really left the Jehovah's Witnesses in 2015, 2014ish, it was rare to see JW events in the news. I mean, the Royal Commission was happening, it was big, but there wasn't stuff all the time. But it feels just in the last 4 to 5 years, it's now got to the point where, as you said, we can't keep up. We can't do a Watchtower in Focus for every major event that happens. We can't do a survey article for every development in the news or every piece of media coverage of issues related to Jehovah's Witnesses. And it feels that there's a real acceleration in the public profile of the religion. In the same way, I think it's been pointed out where Scientology is now in terms of having a fairly toxic brand label. I think we can see Watchtower starting to accelerate toward that. And I think also just in terms of what's being uncovered in terms of abusive and toxic practices, particularly child abuse, but we're also starting to see it with domestic violence and shunning. I think we've seen a real acceleration in public awareness and also what we're uncovering in the last 4 years.
So are you expecting a busy 2019?
I am expecting a very busy 2019. I mean, if you think especially during 2018, we had an inkling of some stuff that might have happened, but a lot of the events that happened took us completely out of surprise. Pillowgate, for example, that came out of nowhere.
I still don't quite believe that happened.
It's genuinely one of the weirdest things that's ever come out, and actually got huge media exposure as well.
Yeah.
And there are so many things last year that we couldn't predict. So even though this year, it's fair, there are some fairly safe bets. Like I think we're going to see continued failures of Watchtower to defend its policies in court, and it's going to keep costing them. I think we're going to see. I think one of the things we're definitely going to see is the stagnation will continue. But I think also we might. The really interesting stuff we probably have no idea it's coming.
Yeah.
The way things are going, I'm going to learn a lesson that Watchtower failed to learn, which is that it's a very bad idea to try and predict the future.
Indeed. Indeed. No, I just keep looking back to when I first woke up, and I was like you, kind of working undercover, still technically inside the organisation, but wary of grave ramifications if I ever went public and showed my face. And back in those days, if there was one major newspaper article, it was like, hold everything. Yeah. We finally got some exposure. Yeah. Now the big newspaper articles, there's one on an almost monthly basis, isn't there? Yes. Depending on which country you're looking at. So I do feel as though things are different now, and I'm just glad that we have the team set up, because obviously towards the end of 2018 we expanded JW Survey's team, so there's now more of us kind of on hand to deal with the influx, because you see some of the emails from people who are responding to the work that we're putting out, and it's safe to say that there are people out there being affected who need help.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, one of the things is I think the acceleration in people who are reaching out to us. I mean, if you email JW Survey, you get an automated response that says, we have read your email, we do read them all, but we may not be able to respond to you instantly. In some cases, it's not that we're ignoring you, or if you don't get a response for a while, it's just that we get so many of them. As you said, the team's been expanded, but it seems there's a real acceleration of people waking up and reaching out, and an awareness that there's this online XJW community, that all these different resources are. I'd be very curious. I mean, I know there's no way to plot the graph, because XJWs by nature need to be very off the record sometimes. But as we're seeing the Watchtower growth figures are kind of stagnating, I think if you could plot the year-on-year curve for the past 5 years of HWs, I think you'd start to see this.
Yeah.
I think I'm not saying it's an avalanche of people leaving, but I think it's a growing curve. That's certainly my impression.
I felt a little bit disappointed when I looked at the 2018 figures and compared them with 10 years ago. Because although I was able to see, for example, 42% of Europe in decline, there was clear kind of stagnation in the figures, you think 10 years of the internet is going to have blown a huge hole out of the side of Watchtower, but they've still managed to hold on. Do you think that in another 10 years from now, it will be similar, that they'll still be holding on just about?
I think they'll always, to a degree, hold on as a religion, and I know you've said this before, there'll probably be always people who are Jehovah's Witnesses. In terms of, the one interesting thing at the moment is that Watchtower is very dependent on the young generation for growth. They're not converting anybody, they have to get born-ins. Born-ins more and more now grow up with the internet. They're very internet savvy. It's harder and harder to tell them to stay away from social media, from YouTube and all these other things. And this is where the majority of this material is available online. So I'm very hesitant to predict what will happen, but I think the major challenge for Watchtower now is the upcoming generations who've been born in the last 10 years will be getting to the point where they're very online savvy, and also where they are in a position emotionally, financially and age-wise to leave. Because I know we see a lot of it if you go onto the HWW Reddit, and sometimes get emails of people saying, I'm very young, I can't leave, but I'm physically and mentally out.
Yeah.
And it's partly because of the internet. And I think there's a whole generation of people who are maturing who right now they physically can't leave because they need to be at home and living. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, those people will come of age. Now, to what degree of the percentage of people they are in Watchtower, I don't know, but my suspicion is that it's a larger percentage than we think.
Your situation is one that lots of people watching this will relate to, because you've been doing, I actually can't believe you've been doing activism for this long and still managed to stay under the radar. What would be your message to physically and mentally out, or those who are clinging on to relationships with believing Jehovah's Witness family, who are itching to make a full escape, or they are struggling with those dynamics? What would be your message to them?
So the first thing I would say to them is, you are the best person to know your situation, but you have to set your goal. If your number one goal is to maintain your family relationships at all costs, you need to accept that means you will be sacrificing your freedom to live your life. And if that's the decision you want to make, then that's the right decision for you. But if your number one goal is to live your life freely and to look back on your life and say, I spent the time I had in the way I wanted to spend it, then I would say do that and understand that may cost you some family relationships. I mean, I chose the latter. I'm faded. I've doing what's sort of a strategic fade.
Yeah.
So my relationships with my family at the moment are on a knife edge.
Really?
I know that, I'm not saying this, but I have a good relationship, but I know at any moment Watchtower could change its policies, or maybe what I do, I may do something in the course of living my life that my family say, no, we now consider you.
We draw the line.
We draw the line.
Yeah.
And that is a choice, that's a loss I'm prepared to take to live my own life. That's a decision I've made for myself, and so I would say to people, just work out what genuinely you want for your life, and then act accordingly. Don't hang on to relationships if what you really want is freedom. But at the same time, if those relationships are more important to you than freedom, admit that to yourself as well, and just be true to who you are.
Indeed. And what would be your message to Jehovah's Witnesses who stumble on this video, who are just at that beginning process of, oh, good grief, I can't believe I've been lied to, I can't believe I've wound up in a cult.
Yeah.
It can be very raw, can't it, when you're in that situation?
Yeah.
So what do you think would be your advice?
So I would say the first thing is take a breath.
Yeah.
Because the temptation will be to, the shock is like, oh my God, I've been lied to, I'm in a cult. And then almost the temptation, then you're almost full of this either anger or rage or pain. And it can make you, even if you make a decision which is the right decision, you might make it in a way which isn't the right way for you. So the first thing is take a breath, step back and think. Do your research to make sure that you're happy with the decision to leave. And again, there's keep questioning everything. And then once you're ready, take your time plotting your escape. And so I'd recommend, for example, the book you brought out, How to Escape from Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
A lot of that is about think it through and plan it through.
Know your options.
Know your options.
Yeah.
And what works for you, because the temptation is to do something knee-jerk.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time that might get you to where you want to be, but it might not get you in a route that best serves you. So I think the main thing is, if you're a Jehovah's Witness right now and you're in that first initial stage of waking up, is take a breath. There's time for you to plan. So don't do anything rash.
Indeed. Great advice. Well, it'll be fascinating to see what 2019 has in store. Mm-hmm. Suffice to say, the Watchtower in Focus team will do our best to stay on top of it.
We will try.
And but no, thanks so much for meeting up with me during this flying visit. And great to catch up with you, mate. It's bad. So viewers, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to subscribe to the John Cedars channel for more such videos. And there's also the JW Forwardcast, which you should absolutely, I love what you're doing with Get On There, which you should absolutely check out and subscribe to. But for the time being, thank you so much for watching.